Hello, thank you for having me. It's nice to see you all, and thank you for the hellos in the chat. Please get chatting to me. I want this to be a little bit more interactive, and I will tell you now that I don't have any slides because I want to get you doing today. I'm going to get you experiencing the things that I'm talking about, fingers crossed. That's the way that I like to learn, and everybody's different, aren't they? So I think that there's a nice mix in this conference in the last 2 days, with lots of information, lots of great words on slides, lots of great speakers. It's lovely to see Odile again, and not in person this time, but on the screen. But I think what I'm going to do is, because it's the end of the day and I thought, oh, actually people might be thinking, oh God, I just want to look out the window for a bit, I'm going to get you doing that actually because this is all about being happy authentically with our natural environment. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but I do want to get you chatting away and ask any questions that you like. And Lucy, if anything comes up and there's a question and I miss it in the chat because I'm getting all passionate about what I talk about, then please do stop me and just let me know what's coming up. I'm happy to be interrupted by anybody at any point in time. So don't feel like you have to wait until the end to ask me any questions. So I have been doing lots of work lately outside for two reasons. One, because we've had this, pandemic, and it's pushed us all outside a bit more, which personally I think has been one of the benefits of this. So if we're going to take a positive look at what's happening and has happened to us and what we've all been through, which has been tricky to say the least, but if we're going to take the positive look, I think the being outdoors a lot more has really boosted people. Certainly where I live, people have taken to the green space and blue space a lot more, and comments that I'm hearing from people about how it's had such a fantastic impact on their well-being is just immense. So for me, that's been something that's been really, really good. But not only that, it's also now here in England anyway, summer finally. So we're getting some nice weather, and what that means is, with the clients that I'm working with, I'm able to do a lot more outdoors, which again is just really getting people engaged. So I actually tell you, it's not really, it's a little story, I guess, about my week. So I just returned back to where I live in Devon from the lovely Brecon Beacons in Wales. And the reason I was there was because there was a school that is one of my clients, and they're a really forward-thinking school because they do a lot of outdoor education. Now, for some, I think, traditionalists in the education system, this might seem a little bit like it's too much like having fun and not much learning. I experienced the complete opposite this week, and I think we can all learn a lot from that as adults as well. So I was with 40 14-year-olds this week, and what we were doing, we were having sessions in the morning, and I was delivering positive psychology, mindset, resilience sessions. And then in the afternoon, all afternoon, we were out in the field, literally in the hills, gorge walking, and they were rock climbing, and in the water and the rivers, and hiking and map reading. And they were putting the skills, the positive mindset skills, into practice in the world. And I just saw them flourish. They started to work together as a team. They were using up some of that energy that teenagers have got kind of inside of them, that needs to go somewhere. If there was any stress from the day before or the morning, or if they were feeling a bit tired or a bit gloomy, by the end of the day, by the end of these outdoor activities and engaging with nature, they were just feeling so much brighter, and they were connected, and we were asking for reflections at the end of the day. And the most positive reflections were all about their outdoors time. Now, I would like to think that some of their positive reflections were about my sessions, obviously, but they were indoors. So actually what they said was, what we enjoyed was taking the learning into our lives. And when we were hiking up a mountain and we needed to kind of take a different perspective on the world, and we were chatting to somebody about that and building that trust and relationship, or they were problem solving, how to scale up the side of a cliff safely, obviously harnessed and everything, and communicating with the person at the other end of the rope, or navigating through the river, making sure they were safe, checking in on the person behind them, but taking in the cool of the water and the warmth of the sun, noticing the breeze, pointing out birds and animals and things like that. And it was just amazing how much people were actually taking on board their learning, because they could reset their brain and just immerse themselves in a different way. So it just got me thinking about this session today, and I thought, this is the frame of mind I'm in this week. It's all about being outdoors and in nature, and my session just happens to be about that. So what I want to get you doing today is a little bit of kind of an experiential as well. I'm not going to get you scaling the side of your houses or anything like that, because, you know, health and safety, but I do want to get you thinking about that. So I'm very fortunate in my role in that I get to do a huge range of things, and it's really diverse. And this week has just been one of those things that I do. But, you know, I've worked in the NHS for many years, which is our National Health Service in England, some of you will know. As a clinical psychologist, I've worked with Virgin, so kind of more of the corporate world as well. And then I founded my own business, which is called Positive Wellbeing, a couple of years ago. And it's all about happiness. And what I found was that a lot of organizations, a lot of people, a lot of individuals, we're starting to recognize now that people come first. So no matter what goal we have, we need to look after ourselves first. But how do we do that? The second thing that I'm really passionate about, as well as the well-being of people, which is what we're all here for, of course, is the well-being of the planet. So I've been trying to think about how we marry those two things together. How do we link the well-being of people with the well-being of the planet? Because I believe that we are intrinsically linked to the world around us in so many ways, which we don't often really think about. So we're currently living in quite a technological era, aren't we? Backed by tons of amazing science and rapidly growing IT systems, even robots doing things for us. Artificial intelligence is booming, and it's taking over so many things for us nowadays. I was watching a TV program last week, and it was all about how AI, artificial intelligence, is actually, it's a fantastic resource, but it could also go too far. It's really fascinating, all of this, and it does help us hugely with things like medical advances and the like. I'm a huge fan for the most part. I'm a scientist after all. But let's not forget the other side of life that are immensely beneficial to our mental well-being. And that is going back to being human authentically, and what that means. Humans are supposed to spend a lot more time outdoors than we do nowadays. Ironically, we're all here on screen today, which I don't think that many of us would choose. I think we'd prefer to be in person, of course. For me, I'd prefer to be doing this outside as well, weather permitting. But often it's just those small things that bring us the most joy. And it's the small things that we have at our disposal. The environment, the world around us, nature and wildlife, is all completely free, and it's there for the taking. It's there for us. When we're having a down day or we're feeling a bit gloomy, it's there all the time. We don't have to ask, we don't have to pay for it. It's just waiting for us to utilize it to our benefit. It's wonderful. I would like to think that we would repay nature and the world and the environment a little bit, and pay back some of that wonderful impression and the looking after that it does for us. I'm going to give you a couple of ideas on how to do that as well. But first of all, let's just think about our brains just for a moment. My nan used to tell people, oh, Vic, she's a brain surgeon, you know. And I'm not a brain surgeon, not quite a brain surgeon, but I do like a bit of neuropsychology. Now, you may well already know this, and I'm sure that some of our other amazing presenters have talked about the brain, so I won't go too much into detail. But there is this thing called negativity bias, which you may have heard of. And this is where we pick up on the bad things in our environment much more quickly and easily than the good things. It's part of the way that we've evolved. It's a great way to survive real danger, because we stay away from threat and we survive, preserve our life by being aware of things that are going wrong around us. However, for day-to-day living, for most of us, if we're lucky, we don't need such an intense focus on negativity. What we need to do is to create a positivity bias to counteract the negativity bias. Our happiness centers are thought to lie in the left prefrontal cortex, which is shown on magnetic resonance imaging studies, fMRI studies, when people experience positive emotions like happiness and joy and excitement and things like that. This is the brain region that lights up when people are experiencing positive emotions like that. And these positive pathways are created when we think about good things. Okay, so when we make these nice connections between ourselves, and we make those connections with other things in our environment as well, including other people that are around us, but also wildlife and nature, green and blue space, what happens is we tend to become more optimistic, we become more hopeful, and we're happier as a result. It also seems to have a really, really positive effect on our physical well-being. And that's because we've got all these chemicals in our brains that are designed to make us feel good, those wonderful friends, the happy hormones. And I'm sure, again, that you've heard a little bit about these, but they're serotonin, dopamine, endorphins, I'm sure you've heard of them, and my all-time favorite, oxytocin. They happen naturally for different reasons, which is lovely. But do you want the best news? We have the power to elicit these for ourselves. How amazing is that? So we're going to have a little go now, as I promised. And we're going to start with having a look outside. So I have a window over here. You might have noticed I keep getting distracted because there's some lovely green trees swaying around out there and some birds that keep flying by, which is lovely. So if you have a window somewhere, if you don't have a window, take your laptop or your device, the phone, whatever you're on. If you can safely, go and wander to a window, or even better, wander outside. But just make sure that you can see something natural. If you can't do that and you've got something like my lovely friend here behind me, this big plant, just look at something natural. Because some of the best meditators in the world will say that natural things help us to feel calmer more than unnatural things do. And that's about human connection with the environment and with natural things. So just pause for a moment and notice something that you like about what you can see. Something that's quite nice and pleasant to look at, and why. Something that makes you smile. I can't see you all, but hopefully you're feeling good. I can see a couple of you smiling there. These are small mindful moments that give our brains a much needed break from all of the hard work that we get these poor brains to do every single day. Our brains deserve a little bit of downtime. And not only that, we forget what it's like to notice the world through curious eyes. So just go with me here, okay? I think we're all adults in the room, but just think Alice in Wonderland for a second. Now, her life is one massive adventure, and she's always having a really fun time. That's because, I think, she sees the world with openness and curiosity, much like a child. As children, we're great at doing this. Everything we see is fascinating. We're learning, we're absorbing like a sponge, we're being educated. We're seeing things for the first time quite often when we're younger. As adults, that doesn't happen so much. So we need to make more of an effort to have that feeling. We can do it. It's up to you. So look again at that thing that you're looking at out the window, that thing that you like, or your plant next to you in the room. Look at it again, and this time, imagine that you're seeing it for the very first time. Imagine that you don't know what it is and that you've never seen it before. And what kinds of emotions does that bring up? If we've got any brave people in the room, I'd like you to pop something in the chat about what you're feeling or what you're looking at. What's it bringing up for you? Is there anything that you haven't noticed about it before? Maybe it's the different shades of green, or actually the fact that some of these leaves are a bit crispier than others. Maybe it's just the sheer amazement that this thing can grow, even though I'm pretty sure that this fella behind me is not indigenous to England. I think he probably would prefer a warmer climate. But he's happily growing beside me as I work in my home at the moment. That's quite amazing. What is it about the thing that you're looking at that is different? You know, just have a think about looking at nature, looking at the world through the eyes of a child. Children.
Vikki, can I say something? Sorry to interrupt. It's
Perfect.
very funny you bring that up, because for me, those are the plants that that I garden myself. And
Ah,
I say that to Lucy, and she put that, and that's a funny fact that I'm not good at gardening. And now I'm so proud, because actually it's beautiful roses, and it adds more to the experience. And let me think that I'm not so bad at gardening.
well, that's a lovely, lovely reflection. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
That's really nice. And you're definitely not so bad. What an amazing thing. That's lovely. And that's a really nice expression, and it's just having those few moments of noticing that. What you're doing there is you're not only having an experience of a boost of happy hormones, but you're also giving your brain a break. And our minds are working overtime. We work them so hard. They never rest. We don't very often give our minds a break. So what you're doing there is you're taking your mind off other things and you're really focusing on something. Some call this mindfulness. So you're probably aware of this right now. In fact, I've had a direct message from thank you, about small acts of mindfulness. And that you think it's a great tip. So I'm really, really glad about that. Looking outside your window to view nature. Of course, it is mindfulness. That's exactly what we're doing here. But quite often, I hear people saying, I don't have time to do mindfulness, or I don't know how to do mindfulness. And you've all just done it just by looking at something, pausing from everything else that's going on, focusing your attention, and just changing your perspective for a moment from one of an adult that's not really thinking because you just see this all the time, to one of a curious Alice in Wonderland, or a child that's seeing something with more amazement and wonderment. Imagine, just imagine, expand your mind and think, how amazing would life be if you could see so many more things in the world in that way? And you can, it's completely within your control. What this does is it brings about a sense of awe. It's one of my favorite words, is awesome, because we use that word all the time. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, you're awesome. Oh, it was awesome. But if you think about the word, the feeling of awe is actually quite a phenomenal feeling. It's the kind of feeling that you get when you climb a mountain and you reach the top, or you see somebody that you really admire do something that you think is quite amazing, or a natural scene like a sunset or the moonrise or something like that, or a really dark night with hardly any light pollution and there are just stars all over the place. Awe stops you in your tracks. And ordinarily, it's about something natural in the environment. So awe tends to be something to do with nature. So this blue space or green space. That's because we're human and we're connected with the environment. And this is my point about the technological era that we live in, and the fact that we have all of these amazing emotions and feelings at our disposal if we just take the time to stop and pause. Okay. So incidentally, what we've all just been doing is lighting up this left prefrontal cortex. So you have literally been changing the chemicals of your brain just now. And that's how easy this is. So you can do this anytime. You can stop for a moment if you're feeling stressed. And I do this is tried and tested by me. It's not rocket science. It's so simple and effective. You're feeling really stressed. You're feeling overwhelmed. We're all getting that at the moment. It's been a really tough year and a bit for us all, for different reasons. Just take a look outside or step outside, take a few deep breaths, have that mindfulness moment, but do something that is connecting you with nature and bring yourself back. Okay. I'm going to move on to gratitude. Now, this is a word that people are talking about. I'm so pleased because it's something that is so, so important. There are many ways that you can practice gratitude, and I'm sure that you've all got your gratitude practices, but it's another emotion that's been shown to have so many health benefits. And you could wake up in the morning and make a gratitude statement, or you can write a gratitude journal. You can express gratitude to other people. I'm going to get you to do something slightly different now. Now, in the chat, or if you don't want to put something in the chat, I can't force you, but I would love to see your thoughts. In the chat, I would like you to write a sentence about your gratitude for our wonderful planet. So what is it that amazes you about the world that we live in? Is it, for example, that the mere fact that we're spinning on a ball of matter hanging in the universe? Mind blowing. That I'm quite grateful that that's happening, actually. Or maybe it's something a bit more tangible, such as a big impressive tree outside of your window. Maybe you've got a big oak tree or an acorn tree or something like that. Or maybe you love the feeling of swimming in rivers. That's a really big one for me. Or sea swimming. It's the big one for mental health. We've started doing that over here, at least. We've started doing that a lot lately. There's river swimming, sea swimming. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's the dawn chorus that you hear in the morning and all of the birds singing. I think somebody's just popped that in the chat. I totally agree with that one. Maybe it's the bright orange sunset, or an interaction with wildlife, or anything else in nature. Are you grateful for the climate, the seasons? Some people say that they love having different seasons. Some people say they love it when the sun's really warm in the summertime. Some people love the snow in winter. How great does it feel to be alive right now in this planet? This is not something that we think about very often, but our well-being, I believe, is absolutely linked to the planet and the world around us. So let's have a look at some of these. Oh, I can see lots of comments. Lovely. Okay, we have the diversity of nature. I love that one, Charlotte, because you're right. There's just not just one thing that you can be grateful for, but actually the fact that there is so much out there. Birds singing, we've got that. Flowers, lovely. Got a couple of those, bird song. I do like, by the way, Charlotte, your comments about watching a bee moving from flower to flower. That's really nice. Baby girl, lovely. Is that the sounds or the look, or what is it? What she's up to? Garden, the mountains, the energy of the mountains. That's really, really nice. The wind on your face when you're walking. That's lovely. Life experience you've had and things to come. Oh, that's really, really positive future focus there. The mountains, sunrise, water on our earth, of course. Hearing the rain outside when you're inside, not so much when you're out in it. The vegetables you're growing, and new baby courgettes, they sound very, very cute. Evelyn, I'd like to see those. This is wonderful. This is us really engaging with the things that we feel good about and passionate about. And it will be different for everybody. Some of you've got some similarities there, but some of you've got some different things too. So this is really important for us to do, I think, and have some time in our day to do it. It's all very well us talking about this now, but what happens is we get so stressed and so rushed with life and things pile on top of us, and we've never got enough time. The one thing that I hear over and over again from my clients is I just don't have the time. And that's such a shame, because time is a construct. Like we can't create more time. But what we can do is we can prioritize and make sure that we schedule time in our day to look after ourselves and our wonderful planet. So I would suggest there are two things that we could all do. One is to have some time where we express or think about or show gratitude to our wonderful world in just the ways you did. Maybe you've got family, or you can do this with friends or work colleagues, where you could have some kind of activity or game, or a meeting where you make a statement or you talk about what you're grateful for on the planet or in your immediate surroundings. And the other thing is, what are you going to do about it? So how are we going to do something to look after this wonderful world that we live in? I really do believe that we need to start thinking about that, and we can all make a difference. And I'm sure all of you already have. There's been a huge rise in things like recycling, cleaning up our oceans, thinking about our carbon footprint. Another benefit, perhaps, of the last year and a bit where we haven't been able to travel so much. Whilst there are many downsides, I think there are some upsides too. But what is it that we can do to make a difference? Is it reducing plastics? Is it not wasting so much? Is it growing your own vegetables? I love that idea. It's already been put out there. Or going back to the bees, maybe there's a bee hotel that can be built. That's a good fun activity. These are all things that we can do to make ourselves feel good. So we get a boost of serotonin because we've achieved something, but also we get that boost of connection as well, and looking after the world that we live in. And it gives back. It's always there for us. I'd like to think that we've got this really nice, healthy relationship with our world. And remember, our positive vibes don't have to come from huge achievements. Sure, if you're doing something huge and, you build a big eco-friendly home in the middle of the mountains, and that's wonderful, lucky you. But it's actually the day-to-day small things that can have a huge impact on how we feel. So don't forget to bring the good things to mind every day, no matter how small they are. Perhaps it's going outside and enjoying a cup of chai that you've made from scratch whilst the birds are tweeting in the trees or the sun's coming up or whatever it might be. Perhaps it's going for a walk with a friend around your favourite park. There could be anything. I like waking up with the sunrise. It's quite early this time of year, but I like waking up with the sunrise. That makes me feel really good and sets me up for a perky day. So focus on these things and remember, back to the brain for a second, positivity breeds positivity. So we have these things in our minds, mirror neurons. They mimic what we perceive in other people. So I can't take credit for this quote because you'll have heard it before, but it is a great one. Smile and the world smiles with you. With all of these acts, gratitude statements, and the positivity snowball effect, you'll be having an impact on the people around you, thus creating more chance and opportunities for them to do the same kinds of things. So if you start talking about what you love about the environment and where you live, or the world at large, you'll find that other people feel like they've got permission to do the same. How awesome is that? Raising the happiness index on the planet. So this is how we live our best days. I've got a couple of minutes left. So I just want to say thank you so much for your engagement. I hope that you can go and create some really positive moments in nature, and I'd love to hear about them. So please do connect with me on social media or my website. I can pop some links in the chat in a second. I'm genuinely interested to hear more ideas about how people are already balancing that positive well-being for themselves and the well-being of the planet. I am really keen to create this movement around looking after ourselves as people, but also looking after this wonderful world that we live in. So it'd be great to hear from you. And as Lucy kindly mentioned in the beginning, I am writing a book. I'm actually publishing it today, hopefully. So I'm in the process of publishing my first book, and I've got a whole chapter on nature. So if you're interested, you can have a look at that. But it's all about being your best, no matter what's going on around you, and using the science of happiness to be a really good human being. But it's a really accessible read. It's even though I'm a psychologist, it's not particularly academic. It's backed in science, but it's for everybody really, not just for psychologists. And also I'm running some retreats with a colleague of mine who's a nutritionist, and they are based in nature and wonderful surroundings. So if you're keen to have a look, or you fancy a few days break, we are running those throughout the year. Our next one is in the UK, but then we've got one in Colorado next year, and we're hoping to go all around the globe when we can travel again. So have a look at the website, and I hope to see you at our retreats. And any questions at all, please do get in touch with me. I'll be happy to chat to you about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, Vikki. It was great to have it. It sort of felt like just a moment for everyone to breathe and to carry on doing what we're here to do and learn and grow, but also with very much a sort of sense of freshness and so yeah, thank you so much for that. And obviously thank you also for the links and everything, so that we can stay in touch with you moving forward. And I'm very jealous of the retreats in Colorado. I'm just starting to think that that's just a bit not fair, but hey, do tell us about it. Yeah, but snow, I'm one of those people who likes the warm weather, so.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. That's not the one for you.
Okay, thank you so much.